Well, I'm sure glad I stuck with this one.
Thank you to my patrons for supporting the channel and making it the best it can be.
Hey fantasy fans, welcome back. It's Dan here with TreeBeard Book Reviews. Yeah, again, we're in the drab here. I'm moving in a few weeks. July. We'll be there. We'll be getting there. Don't worry. And I'm gonna mention too. So, for when I do move, I'm gonna be doing. I think I'm gonna be doing a live chat, like a live video, and you guys are gonna help me set up my bookshelves. So I think it'll be fun. Like, you know, new house, new me, so new bookshelves, so new office at least. So anyways, yeah, let's get on the review with The Royal Assassin. I'm gonna do a spoiler review. I really want to talk about this book. It's a heck of a long book, and there's a lot of things that went on. I kind of want to just get to the highlights of what I like, do an in-depth discussion about this book, why I enjoyed it. I loved it so much more than Assassin's Apprentice. So spoiler there's my early review that I liked it more than Assassin's Apprentice, which I don't think was super hard to do for me. Assassin's Apprentice really hit middle of the road. Like, I think I gave it like a 2.5 stars when I was doing my ratings back then. And yeah, this one knocked it out of the park. So let's get into it. I guess, sorry, before we get into the review, hey guys, if you like the content, guys, please like, comment, and subscribe. If you want to become a patron, I do have a Patreon. But yeah, and we're done with that. Let's start talking about Royal Assassin. So this book picks up literally right at the end of Assassin's Apprentice. Fitz, he's still a teenager, he's still a young man. He's kind of dealing with the side effects of what happened to him at the end of the book, where Regal attacked him. And he's kind of messed up a bit. He's dealing with the consequences of his miscalculations when dealing with Regal. He realizes that Regal will kill him, and he doesn't have any kind of consequences for those actions. So he's kind of down in the dumps, he's slowly healing from this injury, and he's kind of having like spasms and stuff like that. And you really see Fitz at his lowest point, and wow, do you? I don't know. Fitz is at a lot of low points. Robin Hobb, she's really good at manipulating, the reader's emotions in this book, where there's just constant highs and lows, and you really go through the mill with Fitz on this one. And I felt like I was on an emotional roller coaster, which is a weird, that's a cliche thing to say, but I think she did a really good job of balancing. Even though it's a really long book like this, there's a lot here, and there's probably some stuff that could be cut out, and I'm trying to think where it is, but I liked every bit of it. I really enjoyed the whole read. So yeah, Fitz, he's down in the dumps. He's coming back to the Six Duchies, coming back to Buckkeep, and he's kind of like got to deal with piecing himself back together. And he's starting to have to deal with more adult problems, because now he has an enemy. He has a legitimate enemy who would kill him, does not trust him, doesn't want him in the picture. And he's trying to balance this by also serving his king, King Regal, who is sick. Regal is ill, and he's just not the character he was. He's not the man he was from Assassin's Apprentice. And Fitz has to deal with this, but Fitz is also building a stronger relationship with Verity, and he's starting to see Verity more as his king than he does Regal. And so Fitz starts having this conflict in his mind with, do I serve and worship protect the person who I've sworn to, or do I serve and protect the person who will take his place? So it's a really tough dynamic that Fitz is in. You really get pulled in different directions, because you especially as a reader, you're like, yeah, like support Verity. You love Verity, and Verity's a great character. Verity's probably is he my favorite character? He's up there. Verity's up there. I think I like him more than Fitz, just because he's older, and not to be ageist or anything, but he just has that wealth of years, where Fitz is still a teenager and he makes like teenage decisions. Whereas, you know, I'm just past that part of my life. So I'm like, oh, you're making teenage angsty decisions and I can't wait to like see more adult Fitz. So I enjoyed this book more because Fitz was older and he is dealing with more adult and real kind of situations where as before in Assassin's Apprentice, like the first 40%, like Fitz is like 6. So it's not super interesting for me. And but again, you know, Robin Hobb still had those emotional punches kind of coming in. So yeah, so he's dealing with this conflict in his own self where, you know, he's really seeing Verity as like a father, mentor, brother figure. And you know, Fitz is also, you know, helping Verity, like being trained as a sailor to go on on the ships to fight the red ship raiders. And Fitz is getting out there, he's fighting, and you know, he also learns to then fight with an axe because you find out he's pretty crap with a sword, and he's just a brawler. Like Fitz seems to like he just wanders into situations that, you know, aren't good for him. Like he's not a great fighter. So like he's good enough to get by, but if he's ever outnumbered, game over for him. So, and he gets lucky a lot of the time, and a lot of the time he gets saved by his, you know, his companion figures like, you know, Burrich, a Shade, and then also Night Eyes. So Night Eyes is a character I want to talk about that. Everyone said, oh, you haven't got to Night Eyes yet, and so I figured out like Night Eyes is his wolf that he bonds with. And you know he's going to bond with the wolf. You know he's not going to reject Night Eyes. And it was one of those things where, you know, it was really telegraphed. And this is some of there's some minor complaints in here where it's really telegraphed that, you know, he's going to bond with Night Eyes. He's like, no, I shall never bond with you. I'll never bond another animal companion. And it's like, bro, come on. Like, we know you will. And it kind of, she forces his hand in a sense that, and then, you know, Fitz got obviously put into a position where he had to bond Night Eyes or he would have kind of died. Or he just wouldn't have been able to survive. I guess he would have died. Yeah, he would have died. And so, you know, the bonding of him with Night Eyes, you saw it coming a mile away. You're glad it happened. You're like, yeah, thank gosh, that really needed to happen. Because he just adds a lot of dimensions to Fitz. And he gives Fitz a brother when he needed it the most, because Burrich was away at this time. You know, Verity's like fighting the red ships, like, you know, using his skill. So he needs that companionship, and he also is lovesick over Molly, a character, you know, you met in Assassin's Apprentice, who was a childhood friend, and he eventually became infatuated with, and, you know, finds out that she actually does have a burning love for him too. But it's like, you know, due to his station being a bastard son of a prince, he can't really act on it because he's going to put her in a compromised position, put himself in a compromised position, you know, having a loved one that, you know, Regal, I keep getting their names mixed up. Sorry, not Regal. I'm getting them all mixed up now. Sorry, King Shrewd is the king he loves. Regal is the enemy. My bad, guys. I am very sorry. So Shrewd is the king he loves. Regal, baddie. So yeah, so giving, you know, Regal an opportunity with Molly, you know, using Molly to get to Fitz. So there's so much going on in this book. Like there's so many like things that she's dangling, like Robin Hobb. She's a master, like she's like got this massive spider web and she's just pulling each little string, and it's just got this tension going all the way through. And I haven't even talked about like Ketrican or even more about Verity, because it's just, and Shade too. Like this book is just so much, and it is a long book, and there's a lot of things that, like, you know, kind of just constantly happen to this character. Like the one thing I will say is a negative. It's called Royal Assassin. Not much assassinating going on, really. Like I said, I don't really think he's like a super great assassin, to be honest. He's kind of a shit assassin, actually. Like, yeah, he kills people, but it's not like, you know, the cloak and dagger assassin where it's really like, ooh, I just put the poison in your drink and you fall over dead. And which is fine. Like, yeah, that's how assassins probably did work. but it's just not as cool as like jumping off a balcony and like stabbing someone in the eye, kind of like assassin. So it's like that's a minor gripe because he does assassinate some people, but he's really in this book. He's kind of a brawler, and he gets into lots of brawls, and he's out fighting the Red Ship Raiders, and he's got throwing out with axes and stuff like that. So yeah, not much assassinating, a lot more like just like street fight, not street fighting, but like, you know, fighting, like legit warfare. So yeah, but I did like that. I did like Fitz's maturity and his ability to get into battles and get dirty and fight and get his butt kicked a lot of the time too. Like, so he's not a super competent fighter. So, but you know, after this first season of defending the red ships with their own ships, they realize it's not as effective, and there's something happening where information's not getting relayed through the old coterie that was, you know, created in book one. And, you know, Fitz is kind of still dealing with his effects, and not, is it Galen, I think, who didn't train him properly, and he's still kind of having issues with the skill. And so he's having to really rely on his wit, and like Verity's teaching him a little bit of the skill. There's so much happening in this book. Like you really start to kind of understand a little bit more of the skill and the wit. And I think she does a much better job in this book portraying it and getting to understand it as a reader. I still think it's interesting, but it's not like, it seems like a really super soft magic system. You know, yes, only certain people can use it, and there's certain parameters the magic can be used within, but it's not still like super fleshed out, and I don't fully understand it. I think, you know, just reading more in the realm of the Elderlings will, you know, flesh it out a bit more. And so I guess to speak of Elderlings, you know, Fitz is sent on many missions by Shrewd and Verity as well to like find out more about the Elderlings, and also with the Fool. Oh man, I haven't even talked about the Fool yet. Jesus, like this book. So yeah, so the Elderlings, you know, we find out, which you know, you piece together that they're dragons. The Elderlings are dragons, and that you know, as they were promised that, you know, if ever the, you know, the descendants of the first king of Buckkeep, that the Eldlings would come, and they would come to the rescue of you know, Buckkeep and this descendants. And so Verity's like, okay, this is what I got. And he was actually like sent on this mission by his wife, and so Verity, the crown prince, goes on this mission that you know, he may not come back from. And you know, it's just, again, I'm missing so much stuff because so many things happened. And I guess so Verity went, and this really leaves Fitz in a bad position because Shrewd is sick. Shrewd is on his last legs pretty much, and you know, you think he's being poisoned, but he isn't. So he's so ill that he's medicating himself to a level where, you know, he's just not in pain, and he's still there deep down. And it's really emotional. It's really sad because you see, you know, Shrewd in such a different light in this book, and how he did have his love for you know, for Fitz and his children, and you know, his greatest fault was loving his kids, and you know, loving Regal so much, and that he would let his kind of, you know, sit there and let his son betray him. And that's really what kind of comes to fruition is Regal, you know, Verity's out of the picture, Shrewd's getting ill, and he pretty much says, oh, you know, Verity's dead. Like, you know, puts out the story that Verity had died, even if he knows he's not dead, but he's not gonna let Verity come back. He's gonna kill his own brother should he come back, and you know, take over the crown. And that's pretty much what happens. It's exactly what happens. And Fitz gets like blamed for the murder of Shrewd. And it's really sad. It's really emotional because you know, they wanted to prove that Verity was alive. So the only way they could do it is reaching out to Shrewd to get him to skill to Verity, because he just didn't have the, you know, Fitz didn't have the power. And, you know, it all kind of falls to pieces, and Shrewd dies. and it's really sad. And then so the Fitz gets captured. It's just this book just gut punched you all over the place, and eventually, Fitz dies. He takes his poison and dies, and he luckily is saved by Night Eyes by switching to his body. So anyway, so like if you probably have read the story, obviously this is a spoiler review, but there's so many characters I really wanted to talk about that really picked up in this book that just made me enjoy this story more. So Fitz was the first one. I think he had a lot of good character development. He made some great companions with Night Eyes, got closer to Verity. Shade and Burge are there as his father figures, just fantastic. Like, I loved his growth from book 1 to book 2, and his starting to break down these barriers that he's facing with the skill, break down the barriers with, which his former father figures that are now really kind of not equals, but they're becoming more colleagues, and they're starting to see him as a man, and he is a man. And then also, like, because he's also getting involved in a physical, like, sexual relationship with Molly, where he's like, gone are the days where he's chasing a dog and playing like a child. Like, Fitz's childhood is over. He's an adult, he is a man, and he's having to live with these consequences of his actions, and understand that his actions have weight, and he's always got the eyes on him. So I just liked Fitz's growth in this book. Burge is another character where, like, I like him, but not enough to, like, say he's one of my favorite characters. You know the love he has for Fitz, and he ends up saving Fitz in the end. But I like Burge. He's one of those characters, like, I think I think she does Burge a disservice, Robin Hobb, sometimes, where she makes you hate him for a minute, then makes you realize, oh no, Birch is actually doing the right thing, and you kind of love him. Like she did that with Nosy in the first book, and then in this book where he gives the leaves to Fitz, and causes Fitz to kill himself, but he did it out of love, right? Knowing that he would use his wit to go into Night Eyes, because he'd been talking with Night Eyes, right? Because you learn that Birch can use the wit. So it's really good, but he's one of those characters. He's like, God damn it, Birch, why are you doing this to me? And then she flips it around, and you're like, damn you, Robin Hobb, you're making me emotional for no reason. So yeah, so I like Birch. And Verity, again, I really like Verity in this book. You just see more of him. He's just the king that he's one of those characters where he wasn't born to be king. He was the heir, he was the spare, right? There's heir and a spare, like chivalry. Fitz's father, he was born to be king. And then Verity is the heir. He's well liked, but he's quiet. He's not confident in his abilities, but he's super talented, and he's just really, really mature and a well-rounded person. And he gets thrust in this position to now be be king potentially, and he rises to the occasion. But he's got this other brother who is ambitious and will kind of do anything to become king, and Verity's doing all these things in the shadows, not in the shadows, but in the background, that are really trying to save the kingdom and put the kingdom before himself. Whereas his brother is, more showy and has the showmanship and looks like a king. And so I just loved his character. And then I loved maybe I didn't love his relationship with Ketchikan, but I like where it got to before Verity goes on his mission. You see him fall in love with his wife. And because he was really bummed that he couldn't, marry for love, but he married out of a sense of duty, and that he really started to understand who this woman was and fell in love with her. And I really like that. I don't think it went over super smoothly, because you see how clueless he is sometimes, Verity. And even like Fitz, who's a young guy, he's like, how is this guy not picking up on these cues, right? And so you see this devotion that his wife has for him, and he starts to have that similar devotion. So I did like that relationship developing over time. And then the last character I want to talk about too is the Fool. The Fool is, he's a complex character, and I don't know what he is or where he's from, or if he's from a different timeline, or if he's a different being altogether. But the Fool is interesting, and the Fool, taxes you in ways as a reader where you just automatically trust him, but he's got this mystique about him that, he's there to like save the Farseer line, and it's just, and he knows Fitz is a catalyst for change, for good or ill. We don't know yet. I'm assuming good because the series continues and there's like, 14 other books. So I don't think it's obviously not the last we're gonna see of the Fool. And you just saw the Fool's love and devotion for Shrewd, and the Fool had his heart in the right place. He knows what kind of needs to happen. But yeah, the Fool's a really interesting character. I don't know if I like him, and like, he's just, it's tough. It's tough with the Fool because you can't get super attached to him because he's so inhuman sometimes. Like, he's described as inhuman and eerie. And, kind of comes off of as aloof, obviously because he's a Fool. But yeah, super interesting. And his relationship with Fitz is really fascinating too. So yeah, I mean, I know this has been long, guys, because I really wanted to do a deep dive into this book. And like, I haven't even talked about Molly too. So Molly was a bit problematic, but I totally get where she's coming from in this whole book. Like, she loves this guy, but she doesn't want to be like jerked around by him. And she's kind of like a mature adult where she's like, yeah, I want like realistic things. I want to have a business. I want to have a family. I want to have a house. This guy's like not gonna give it to me. He just can't give it to me because of his obligations, and because it's king first. And so it's and this is the other tension that's in the book, where it's like Verity, if he was king, he would let Fitz marry who he wants, and Shrewd's like, no, like, you're gonna marry who I tell you to marry. So it's, I've seen a lot of people say, oh, Molly's the worst. And I don't think she's the worst at all. I think she's just doing the best with the situation she's in. She was dealt a shitty hand with her dad, who's a drunk. And she's having to she had to pay back all those debts. And she's had a hard go. Molly's had a hard go, and I totally respect all of her decisions. And I think she made the decision that was best for her in the end. And it probably broke her heart and broke Fitz's heart. But she was right. Like, she made the right decision. And and they're young too. They're young kids. Like, when you're 16-year-old and you say that's the love of my life, it's like, bro, when I was 16, the love of my life was like pizza. Like, so it's you still see them making those childhood mistakes, right? Those young kid mistakes, and they're just learning who they are themselves, and learning about their sexuality and stuff like that. So I think she does a great job in this book, Robin Hobb. Like, this book was absolutely fantastic. I know I haven't touched on everything that I wanted to. There's so many things I want on this book. Like I said, it's a big book. And I read this edition, the 25th anniversary edition. It's got this ribbon in here, so you can totally read it. It's a really enjoyable way to read it. There's fantastic pieces of artwork in here. They're absolutely gorgeous. I cannot wait to be starting Assassin's Quest. I'm probably going to be starting that in July. This is a fantastic read. It is long. It took me a while to read. I think it took me 15 days to read, which is longer than normal. I just had a lot going on when I read it in the month of May. So yeah, I highly recommend it. I cannot wait to read the next one. This book has made me think about the series a lot more, and made me really rethink my series, like my rating of the series so far. I know some people mention that Assassin's Quest has a little bit of fat in it, where there's some stuff that could be cut out in the middle. Royal Assassin, I don't think there's too much that could be cut out. There are some things with the series that they aren't perfect. And, she's really playing the long game. And I really do like the kind of slow setup and slow build she's doing with this. And, you see this character's progression throughout his life. And yeah, I mean, I think this book was fantastic for me. I'm gonna give it the TreeBeard seal of approval. I really dug it. Definitely sold me on the series from Assassin's Apprentice, which where I was quite lukewarm. It's like, yeah, take it or leave it. And this one has kind of said, okay, this is a series that I want to finish. I want to know what's going on, want to read on. And, you know, I do plan to get to live ships hopefully this year. So anyways, guys, I know this is a long review for Royal Assassin. You know, comment down below and let me know if you've, like, obviously, hopefully you've read it because this is a spoiler review. So what were your favorite parts of the book? And who's your favorite character? You know, some people may say Fitz, some people may say the Fool, some people are going to say Verity. I don't know what Mad Labs are going to say Regal. That'd be weird. So anyways, guys, that's it for me. I hope you enjoyed this video, and we'll see you on the next one. Cheers.